we can probably get going since we do have a lot to cover here. I would love to just, first of all, welcome everyone into today's chat with Kenny here. This is a great opportunity at Async to explore the conversation of collecting and even creating in the new digital age with really a pioneer, someone who is one of the very few to take the risk at the moment from the traditional world to jump into this space, poke around not only as a curator and a collector, but also as a creator, and really push the limits and always exploring the next wave of art. And it's been a long and beautiful journey that you've had with the world of art, Kenny. So maybe as people join us here, you could just give us, I know it's an incredible amount to kind of condense down to a little bit of a synopsis bio, but we'd love to hear about, you know, you're starting in the art world, but then also how it's led to this incredible onboarding and tapping into the vein of this new digital and Web3 experience.
How much time do you have? I think the main thing is that I would really like to have this as a conversation as much as possible. And anyone who takes issue with what I'm saying or has something to add, you know, in as much as we can, I'd like to have questions thrown at me at any time by anyone on any issue. And I think that really, I mean, the whole advent of social media, which you just started scratching the surface of, I just think, I mean, a lot of lip service has been paid to these buzzwords like community and people sharing things and helping each other. But to a large part, to a large extent, when I started in the traditional art world as a self-taught outsider back in the late 80s, there was a deep recession that ensued from around 1990, 91 for way more than the 2008 Great Recession or whatever you'd like to call it. And I just think, I mean, I care about art. I've employed technology in my work as a maker since I started in the late 80s. My first animation I exhibited in a pop-up exhibition was in 1993. But because that I engage in a lot of different activities, for me, it's all the same. I love art, I care about art, I work in art. But nevertheless, because I'm an outsider and never went to art school until I was teaching at the New School, beginning in 1992, nonstop to this day, now at University of Zurich and New School and School of Visual Arts. I have a lecture in Detroit on Tuesday at the Detroit Institute of the Arts. And I've always very much, because I'm self-taught, I really believe in having an open architecture, two-way stream of communication with anyone who cares to listen, like all of you very generous people giving away an hour during the last summer weekend. But the art world that I walked into in the 80s, and as it absolutely remains today, unchanged, is a very closed-minded, very regimented, compartmentalized, unforgiving, unsympathetic, inhuman, pretty nasty environment. I call it like, I equate it to lifting up a rock and finding 300 worms all intermingled in this kind of incestuous ball. Nevertheless, I'm still sitting here, and I've been involved in the art world for over 3 decades, coming on 3.5, and I still get chills when I see things that inspire me, and I have the same amount of enthusiasm and passion, which makes up for my lack of intelligence, and art really sustains me and gives me hope and meaning in my life. And as someone who, just by sheer nature of the tenacity and perseverance of carving out a role for myself that didn't exist in the art world, I had a very receptive and open mind. I mean, one of the first things I heard about over 2 years ago in relationship to NFTs was Async's First Supper NFT, which was a collaboration with 13 artists that each contributed layers to this master image of the kind of basic format of a Last Supper, and each of 13 artists contributed different elements, Goldie and a lot of money, Connie Digital, Hackatow, Matt Kane, on and on. And this was like, it was a new model, but very much it relates to collaboration and participatory art that's been going on for ages. So anyway, to run a long sentence a bit longer, because the art world was very unforgiving in relationship to me, and because I curated many exhibitions. We used to call them guerrilla shows before the term pop-up existed. And we always found a way to do projects, whether there was money or not. And in the very beginning, there was no money during this recession period, but that didn't abate any of the activities that transpired at the time, because you can't change your life according to economic cycles. And I think about the present economic downturn in relationship to crypto that we're in. I think in the best of all worlds, NFTs and digital art, finding a marketplace via NFTs, would be completely divorced from the wild fluctuation of cryptocurrency. And that's getting about 7 or 8 years ago, embedded my digital work into my articles, which were largely published on the ArtNet platform. And I became like my own illustrator of my articles. And that was really for the notion of having my work seen by an audience when it was the only possibility during that course of time. When I minted my first NFTs 2 years ago at Nifty Gateway before, I think people sold this first NFT in October of 2020 or thereabouts. And I'm probably the only person that minted NFTs and didn't even know that this was like offered the potential to make a living or to make money. I simply heard about it, and before I can even understand it, a lot of aspects of blockchain, I'll admit, still not understanding. I'm not a coder or a programmer, but I think visually, and I love technology as it relates to culture more than anything. But when I minted my first NFTs, when they sold and I made $4,000, I was wildly taken aback, grateful, appreciative, and it just opened up a whole new avenue. The art world always talks about cultivating new audiences and offering a means of expression, but they couldn't care less about any of that. The traditional art world controls access, and that's really all they give a hoot about, to put it nicely. Keep it G-rated so far, but the art world doesn't care about anything. It's the most backward-looking, conservative. I've been in the legal profession, fashion, finance, you name it, and I'll pretty much will do anything to make ends meet so I can teach, write, and make art. And I've done a million different things, but nothing prepared me for this mentality, this prophylactically self-censoring and very controlling, unforgiving environment that is the art world. So look, I am very aware of the ups and downs of the NFT space, and there is no perfect world that we live in, but NFTs have changed my life absolutely from top to bottom, aside from the tattoo that some of you have probably already seen that I foolishly had. It says NFTism. So I'm soon to have it changed to post-NFTism. For me, NFTism is this community. You're all here because of NFTism. We all come from disparate backgrounds from all corners of the globe, and yet our interests coincide. And I love this kind of, call me stupidly idealistic or cynically so, but I love communicating. I love sharing. I love to learn. That's why I got involved in the first place, because it was a challenge. I think a lot of the traditional art world pushing back and recoiling from this new phenomenon was from fear of change, fear of the unfamiliar, and fear of losing territory to this incredible space where I minted 2 NFTs on object.com on Tezos this morning. I minted one yesterday that was an edition for $5. One of the great misconceptions, and there are many in the art world, in the digital art world, all the same. Great art is not expensive. That's a complete misconception. And there is an incredible still group of people that care about art and care about each other in a very simple and humanistic fashion. So if anything, NFTs have afforded me the possibility to fulfill a lifelong dream of being able to even refer to myself as an artist and not be skeptical or suffer imposter syndrome. And me, like millions of other people, have been able to jump in without having to feel like an idiot and with your pants down, even though I frequently humiliate myself and embarrass myself. And that you can't be an artist without making a fool of yourself. My kids will attest to how often and readily I'm prepared to do it. But that's necessary in life, to take risks and to expose yourself to failure and to fail. You can't succeed without doing so. But with all of the warts and the crime and the grift and anything anyone has ever said in a derogatory fashion about crypto and NFTs, the same exact applies to the traditional art world. Every single complaint that could be lodged against NFTs applies. All the stupid speculation, flipping, flopping, lying, deceit, criminality. I had my bank account hacked in a fine art scam where my emails were hacked into, and the hacker from Hong Kong found out how I communicate to my bank to transfer money on the rare occasions I have any, and they tried to initiate a false transfer, which I would have lost 150,000, but I didn't have 150,000 to lose, or I would have lost it. So this is nothing new. And again, like, let's be perfectly clear. A network of decentralized computers and the like are not criminally minded or greedy. It's the people that operate them. And that happens equally in every sphere. There's a Bell's curve of morality and ethics in the world. And I just love art. And NFTs have given me possibilities that I never would have hoped would have even applied to my life. And I can guarantee that I am far from the only one in this, whatever you want to call it, room that we're in, that has had similar experiences like that. Okay,
1,000%. No, I mean, the space is opened up for collectors, for artists, for developers, almost a whole new economy, a whole new ability to create a possible future for themselves. Do you think that, you mentioned a bit of the fear of the traditional world. Do you think that there's a turning back? Do you think there's no turning back now, that art in the whole traditional world will, almost the same way that record album companies had to accept the digital kind of integration of Napster and these revolutionary moments? It seems as though we're in one of those with creators, and it's not just buying and collecting, but it's also, as you mentioned, creating more art in the world, getting more voices out in the world, and more control over the distribution of those voices. Do you think there is really going back once we've crossed this Rubicon?
You can just, I always say the ETH is in the ether, and the crypto imploded, and there was one cryptocurrency tomorrow, I would lose a bunch of shit, but I couldn't care, because I could tell you that, like, there's the British artist Steve McQueen, who made the film 12 Years of auction record for his art videos is a disgraceful $32,000. Bill Viola, whether you like his art or not, I appreciate it. I'm not a big fan, but he's probably the world's foremost traditional video artist. His auction record is $700,000. Why should a painting sell for literally hundreds of millions of dollars? And we live in a digital age, period. What the hell is contemporary art? It's art that relates to social, political, economic, psychological, and technological issues as it relates to our culture and our ideations and philosophy. And I can't think of anything that has shaped our lives in the last 15 years, to put it conservatively, as much as technology. Why shouldn't digital art be at the forefront of the art market? Forget NFTs and crypto, but it should, and it isn't, because paintings are very storable, not even as much as NFTs and digital art, as a matter of fact. Paintings are very transportable, portable, easy to hang, easy to move, easy to store, period. And since they came off the wall of the cave, they've been coveted. And I think that we deserve equal time, equal value. I'm not interested in a landscape or a photorealistic painting. I mean, there are people that do it beautifully and in new ways every day. But my primary interests lie in contemporary art, which is a foot in the past, a foot in the present, and a lot of thought given to what lies ahead, and sort of a merger of all these moments. So I think, like you mentioned, Napster and all the entrenched powers that were. What did they do when all of that happened? They turned to their lawyers and sued the shit out of like kids in the suburbs downloading music and videos. And then 10 minutes later, they all jumped in and did it themselves. And to give you an example, like a year and a half ago, I called Mr. Larry Gagosian, and said, I just did this amazing show I curated in the gallery that was not the most forward thinking in relationship to NFTs, but the gallery heard about NFTs, had a few clubhouses at the time, and in the end, I ended up curating a show for Nigel Draxler, who now represents me. And funny, I get a gallery to represent me after I had some success selling my art in the NFT space. That's another story. And then I called Gagosian and said, yo, look at the show I just curated. What about a show with you? And he just replied in a half a dozen words, I'm not that kind of gallery. I'm not that kind of six words. That was his response. And guess who's doing an NFT show in LA now? Larry Gagosian is showing Urs Fischer's Chaos body of work that was published on Maker's Place. So, I mean, yeah, I think that what you said is exactly the case. The art world is going to come around. There are a few things that annoy me. I'm pretty much platform agnostic, and I love all initiatives by all platforms, and I'll be a lot happier when Ethereum 2, if it comes in as seamlessly as it's meant to. If gas fees is still going to be high, I'll never go back to Ethereum if I can help it. But yeah, I just think that, Known Origin joining forces with eBay doesn't strike me as a terribly good idea, if you ask me. And I know no one did, but I'm going to tell you anyway. And Art Blocks joining forces with Pace Gallery, for what the fuck is the point? Excuse my language. I mean, I did a video in it was the first NFT to enter Basel Art Fair a year ago, and I kept receiving like literally 100 emails in a week about platforms building the bridge between the traditional art world and the NFT space, and I made a video blowing it up. We don't need bridges between these two spaces. We need new models, new audience, and new ways of going forward to create more accessible, democratic footholds for people, to get a foothold into this system and to be able to effectuate their dreams and their desires.
I completely agree. I had a chat with XCopy one time asking him about, do you ever see yourself having a live gallery, showing it off, or trying to put your work through many more traditional means? And he basically responded by saying he doesn't see the world needing that anymore with this digital space, with meta worlds opening up, with being able to sell basically on any platform you want. The old kind of methods somewhat don't apply to what we're building at the moment. And we almost, as a community, have to recognize what we are building is revolutionary, and we are on a trajectory of changing some major things. And to almost pander to the old past is maybe not the right direction always if you're treading along and building a pretty bright future. With that, let's chat a little bit about, you mentioned hanging in galleries.
Well, can you just hold your thought for your question? I would just like to say one thing. To say that having physical shows involving digital art, that it's not needed or unnecessary, is ridiculous. Because I heard of another person I know who used to have a prominent gallery, and now she's opening a new platform. And one thing she wanted to do was to have like an express interest button instead of a buy now. When you see something and you want it, you want it. That's the beauty of NFTs. You buy it, you pay for it, and it's an instantaneous transaction. Have like a lot of galleries now, besides making you have to buy 2 pieces of art by a coveted artist and donate one to a museum that doesn't want it, buy artists from the stable of the gallery you don't want and able to buy a piece that you do want, or a new one that galleries say is, oh, we're just taking interest right now. Like, get in line in some hierarchy, and really the whole term of a waiting list doesn't even exist. It's just a pyramid of who's the most deemed important. And I hate all of that stuff. So I very much think that in now and in the future, well, I mean, of course, it's more interesting to see a film on a screen, on a giant screen, than it is on a phone or a laptop. Of course it is. And I'm working for this exhibition in a museum that I'm doing in Zurich that opens in October with a hologram companies, I think dedicated display devices that become more progressive. This is going to be a big chunk of what drives this collecting market forward. My house is wallpapered with art, posters, prints, paintings, sculptures all over, monitors. And we need to, again, make living with digital art as natural as opening your eyes and rubbing your nose against a drawing. Okay. Sorry.
Completely, actually, I completely agree that the phygital and the whole digital screen technology, I think it's the future of screens. I think the AR stuff will take away televisions, and we'll still need to hang things exactly as you said on your wall. And now we'll just have paintings that can move, paintings that can be structured in very unique ways. And the physical aspect of it is just that holding body to contain that brilliant art that with the file formats can go really in any direction. Let's chat a little bit about some of the things that you've noticed in the NFT and digital art space. You have programmable art, you have AI art. Do you see quite a strong future as a showcase of what the power of NFTs can be like to the traditional world, to new people being onboarded, by displaying that it's not just a JPEG? These can fundamentally change and do things that previous art could not?
Well, I think that's an incredible point, because when I first found out about async and the layering of NFTs onto to make a kind of organic whole from different fragments, that, I mean, even back in 2000, you were doing this with, as an owner of one of the layers, you can change the colors that would affect all the holders. And I think like there are artists like Rhea Myers who works with smart contracts as the basis of her art, as the when people say NFT art, that's a misnomer, because the only NFT art is art that employs a smart contract or the technology in relationship to NFTs and makes art with that as the fodder for the creation of their art. So I think like what could be done, the magic of what could be done in a smart contract, maybe one day they'll actually really be smart contracts. And I think that there are going to be Picassos there are Picassos already making digital art. And if you go back to Vera Molnar and Herbert Franke, and since the 50s and 60s with the history of generative art, I mean, this shit didn't just come out of the blue or out of a cloud, to use a double entendre, but there's a history of everything. Everything's been done before. You can't make anything entirely new. It all comes from somewhere, but you could certainly create innovative, fresh iterations of the tools that are around us. And I think, I mean, there's a plane going by, but let me say, like, David Bowie, when he first got super excited about using the internet to express himself, said that the space, the gap between the artist and the audience was closing. And God, someone like him or Warhol, these artists could have done the most extraordinary projects in relationship to what we're talking about. Because I think, like, I made a PFP project called Crypto Mutts, which was meant to be a satire of the PFP space, and it turned out to be pretty much what it was satirizing and parodying. But going to Discord is one of the great experiences, and I get beaten up more so than I do on the home front. I get criticized, but I am inspired. I learn, and as I explore more on the blockchain, working with, for instance, Tezos. So I started. I mean, when you own a PFP, you think it's like. I mean, I always wanted to sell my soul, but there were no offers, and then I finally sold a bunch of NFTs for $80. I didn't think I'd sell my soul for $80, but that's what I turned out doing. And the expectations of like these ridiculous words of roadmaps, and I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, I swear to God, nor the day after, nor the month after. What kind of roadmap am I going to give you for a fucking NFT? How the hell do I know? Hopefully things, unforeseen opportunities are going to come my way. I have no idea. But what I do know, that all PFP holders want free shit on a regular basis, raffles and whitelisting and airdrops and all these other things. So finally, it made sense where I could do it economically by giving away my Tezos NFTs on Object, which is like, okay, so it's from like $5 to $200 more or less. And then I was able to get so many pure ETH users to convert to Tezos because they wanted something for free. And I love the holders of my NFTs. I am so grateful for anyone. I get such a kick out of selling an NFT, the same as for $5 as for $20,000. I am an avid, we haven't gotten to the collecting issue yet, but let me tell you, I am the worst kind of hoarder. I love to collect art. I cannot control myself collecting art. I spent all my mortgage money in Basel, which I'm trying to claw back. And I may even be forced to sell the piece I bought in Basel back to the seller to me so I can not go into default. But I always say the best collectors have no money because they don't care. They'll beg, borrow, or steal. And many have stolen to buy art. And I think that there's something to be said for the will of those people surrounding yourselves with art, whether it's on your phone, your computer, or on in your jacket. I had an art piece where I was like selling art, like someone selling watches that fell off the back of a truck out of a trench coat. I mean, there are clinical studies that show that living with art, interacting with art, engaging with art reduces your anxiety, your blood pressure, and reduces hospital stays. In Greece, they issue prescriptions for free museum entry. I met with the Minister of Culture when I gave a talk this summer. So art has magical medicinal qualities, and I just love the experience, making it, curating it, writing about it, teaching it, talking with all of you guys, although so far it's just me blabbing on uncontrollably, but no one listens to me on the home front, so I seize the opportunity. But anyway, go carry on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love the when you mentioned kind of like a hoarder of art, because this environment, especially platforms like Tezos, I know the second I discovered Tezos, I was collecting like 2-3 pieces a day. I'm so thankful I'm married to an accountant, because there was probably a month or two there nonstop just jumping in and buying something for $6, $10, $15. I'd feel, you know, especially since I was addicted to buying ETH pieces, the second that I came across it, I felt like I was a spendthrift when I'd see a piece on Tezos for $80. And the art is still just as remarkable and just as powerful. So I think if you have those emotional connections to seeing a piece attaching to something that's going on in your life, and you get that hoarder almost memory, it's not just the item, it's the memory that you don't want to toss out with selling a piece. Tezos and those platforms, you can become immediately addicted and lose yourself just surrounding your collection with beautiful pieces, but you're also discovering wonderful new creators before they take that next step up. So from a collector's perspective, maybe jumping in, tell us a little bit about kind of how you not just play with collecting, but you mentioned surrounding being a hoarder, jumping on Tezos, the brilliance of that. From a collector's perspective, do you think it's giving birth to a whole new kind of wave of future collectors? I guess one of the things I was thinking about is, you know, Bill Gates was scared of some guy in his garage. Kubrick said the next great filmmaker would be some kid with a handheld camera. Well, is the next, you know, Kenny Schachter, is the next Peggy Guggenheim, some kid minting Tezos pieces in their mother's basement?
One Kenny Schachter is more than the world will ever need, I can assure you. But I can say, look, I was on Async all morning, Maker's Place, and there are NFTs, even in Ethereum, that are dead cheap. You just have to look. People just make sweeping generalizations that this is awful and that's awful and there's no good NFT art and all the platforms are terrible and they all look like video games and they're JPEGs. Well, there are great JPEGs that I'd love to own, and there are great, more complex, structured technological works that employ all different types of structures in the making of the piece, like we've discussed. And I mean, for me, collecting is almost like, I don't differentiate making art, teaching art, writing about art, curating, and collecting and buying and selling, because for me, it's all a performance. It's all a performative act. Every year I do a sale at Sotheby's called The Hoarder, where I sell 100 works. I've been collecting for 30 years. I have storages. I have things squirreled away in every corner of the universe. And I like to even share that. So because I don't have a steady job and a steady means of income, that certainly doesn't come from teaching. The things I love to do the most in my life pay the least. And even like it's like when I sell art for $10, it feels the same as it does from selling something for considerably more. But I think that yeah, so for me, like when I made a conceptual premise for this sale at Sotheby's where I'm taking the piss out of collectors by calling it the hoarder, which is a pejorative term. When you hear the word hoarder, you think of an old person living in a house and about to get suffocated by a stack of old newspapers and beer cans and laundry detergent boxes. And that's pretty much what my life was when I did the first hoarder sale, when I moved from London to New York after 15 years. And what I do, which is to make it innovative and accessible, is I'm in the hallowed halls of Sotheby's, which is like nearly 300-year-old institution, and I'm selling art with no reserve. I insisted there be no reserve, and things sold for hundreds of dollars. I always say that my loss is your gain, and I just don't care. I'm happy to have like a liquidity event, and if I lose money on some stuff, I do. It doesn't do any harm to an artist if one thing sells below their present market, in order to end up in the hands of someone who loves it and covets it and wants to live with it instead of it being stuck in a storage somewhere. So really, I'm very open to all different means of going to Discord, hearing the feedback from people that have bought NFTs for me, learning how to cultivate these and listening to other people and what their feelings are in relationship to what I've done, what they're doing. The best part about like some of the Tezos community is, again, like what Bowie said back to that point, it's like you're conflating. You're in the art world. There are times I've sold major, maybe that's not the right word, big ass stupid art pieces to collectors, and the gallery never even told me who it was sold to. That anonymity, and it's all again back to territorial control, where the galleries are protecting their contacts and their collector base, whereas in the NFTs you're selling, and then even if you're buying from another artist and you're an artist, then you speak to each other and you go on Twitter, which is one of the best thing about Twitter is it's not owned by Zuckerfuck. And you go to these places and you engage with people. And I always say, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and you'll see, I respond to every single DM, no matter where it comes from, whether it's in a rock through my window. I respond to everything in my inbox, typically within 24 hours. And it takes the same amount of energy to say yes as it does to say no. And if there's anything I can do in my power to help someone, besides people calling me up and saying, how do I sell my NFTs and get them on Nifty Gateway, then I'll probably tell you to go fuck yourself. I can be a little bit brusque, and I'm very straightforward. I'm very honest, and I understand, I'm just here to try to inspire people the same way that I've found this deep and ongoing passion. So collecting is a great thing to be able to participate as a collector. And you hit it right on the head. Like the art world always talks about, we're cultivating new collectors. They couldn't give a rat's ass about new collectors. They want the same people buying the same crap at the same art fairs, buying all the art in the Venice Biennale, which is just like a supermarket to buy art. Same. When it comes to new collectors, new people, new audiences, they run for the hills. They have no interest. So it's going to take people from the outside to change the inside.
I love that. No, and I think, I feel like the power of this space, I didn't live through the kind of flower power era of the love and peace movement, but I remember the early days of that artistic push where there really was this kind of belief in each other, support of each other, collector and artist alike. And it seems like the Discord, the Twitter, the conversation of we're all in this together was so streamlined in the communication method. How do you feel like you've mentioned jumping on your Discord, chatting with your community? How do you feel like if you're building art in this space, the importance of creating those one-on-one connections with a collector in this space, because we now know, there are ways to get around royalties, but there aren't ways to get around a thick connection built between you and your collector. So it seems like it's almost imperative that, and it almost seems like you'd be not giving yourself a fair shake if you weren't utilizing the streamlined methods of Twitter, Discord, all of these social media strategies to really convince your collectorship that you do stand out and you're going to be in this for the long term. Tell us a little bit about that from a creator and a collector's side, just using this to create that powerful connection.
Well, those are all your points are really incredible and and just really significant to everything we're thinking about, all of us. But there's one thing I will say, just to backtrack a little bit. When it comes to like women artists and artists of diversity from different ethnic and cultural backgrounds and sexual inclinations, that's one place where the traditional art world kicks the ass of the crypto world, and not in so much in the buyers or the dealers, because the traditional art world is still mostly lily white in that regard. But there have been incredible inroads into other artists besides white male artists that are making inroads into creating significant art markets for their work. And I think that the crypto world and the NFT space has a long way to go to catch up. Aside from that, I think you could write a book on the difference between Instagram and Twitter. When I first started, I'm so old and long in the tooth, we used to have to send a 1-inch square photographic slide in a plastic sleeve to communicate to another human being what we were doing visually. And now Instagram was the first kind of paradigm smash where artists from all walks of life could effortlessly and instantaneously communicate what they were doing from any continent in the world. And about like the communication and the forging of relationships, life happens on like a very grassroots, person by person basis. In a way, like this, even though we're dealing with the most cutting edge technologies, when you think of like the insurance business in the 1700s, Lloyd's of London, where two people will get into a sit at a table and shake hands, there's something, I mean, I have to say, like pretty much 90% of, I work by myself, I'm living by myself half the time. And if it wasn't for social media, I would be a hermit. I'd have no friends. I don't have too many now. It's fine. Many acquaintances, but all of my social relations started on social media. And more often than not, they turn into face-to-face meetings with people. And people that I've met in this burgeoning digital artists, programmers, people from tech companies. Normally in the art world, it's like blinders. It's so myopic. You're talking to the same people about the same subjects and hearing the same story again and again and again. And it's just like, I mean, I think the art world has lost a lot of luster in the last 10 years where, I mean, again, like there are all these stupid complaints that NFTs and crypto is just money, money, money. I even made a music video, speaking of making a fool of yourself, that was just poking away at all of these criticisms. And it's just not the case. We're all in this room together, taking time out of our summer and to hear people's perspectives and to meet people. And as I said, anyone who wants to have a conversation now or at another time, come to my house. By all means, be my guest. And yeah, so I think that having these conversations, Twitter eclipses Instagram when it comes to technology-based art and NFTs. I would never think of like announcing a new NFT project on Instagram. I have my Instagram audience dwarfs my Twitter audience because I've only been doing this for 2 years on Twitter. But I know that's the core of my support in the NFT space, is not of the 50,000 followers I have on Instagram, which is relatively small for someone who has a public persona like I do with my writing. But again, like, and I basically dropped my whole career 2 years ago and was like a baby learning how to walk all over again. And I loved every second of it, and I still do. And I've learned today and I'll learn tomorrow.
Well, it feels like this space is just like such a brilliant, great equalizer for everyone on the spectrum. We all are starting off, some may have more money than others, but we're all starting off on the same path of what this will become, and learning and making our voices and making our connections. It's a beautiful time to be doing this. And with that, we do have so many people up on stage and about 20 minutes left. So I would love to be able to hand this over. So if anyone does have questions, feel free to put your hand up. Shannon will give you the torch. But before I hand over the microphone to the community here, I'd like to, my last question personally would be, for traditional collectors in the outside world that you've experienced prior to Web3 and the digital art boom, what lesson do you think they need to learn from what we're building here, and maybe vice versa?
Your questions are better than my answers. I think that the most important thing I could say is very, 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 very simple. Art is a slow burning process of accruing information, experience, and knowledge. There's no quick fix. I love to be immediately gratified. I bought some t-shirts online an hour ago, as much as the next person, but this is a long game. I mean, I lost a chunk of money during the summer, during this crypto downturn. I could care less. And then all these people, I mean, I just saw that OpenSea is down 99%. Good. For the good. So what? Art doesn't, our lives are not dictated by economic cycles, what we do with our time. If you're into art, if you're into digital art or graphic design or whatever, if you're a writer, a poet, a filmmaker, or an accountant like your wife or anything else, you don't just drop the ball because things downturn. Everything fluctuates in life. And this is a long-term game. Like I said before, if this whole thing shut down and there wasn't a single NFT platform tomorrow, nothing would change. I mean, I wouldn't be dropping NFTs every 6 minutes on Tezos, which may not be a terrible thing. And at the same time, I would continue to, I don't think of bumps in the road. I think of getting around obstacles in any, like Malcolm X, not to take it out of context or to be flippant, but any means necessary. You have one life. It's so damn short. I've had great things happen to me. I'm participating in a museum show in Zurich. I never dreamt in a million years that I would be in a museum. The ZKM Museum bought one of my NFTs, Crypto Mutts, and I have a contract with a publishing company to co-write a book on NFTs, which I'm in the middle of. These are extraordinary things, but nothing has changed in my life in 35 years. I love art. I'm passionate about art. If you haven't noticed, that's what I care about. And all of these things, all of us getting together and having this conversation is so important, not just for ourselves, but for the future, for my kids. One of my kids has his first one-person show in Florence coming up in September. Yeah, I think Web3 hasn't, I wouldn't even say it's fully started. I would say it's stuck its nose out of the gates, but Web3 isn't even really upon us. Yeah, you use your wallet to go to fucking MetaMask and go to OpenSea, whatever, but that hasn't even started yet. So we need more people to open their minds and open their hearts and share. When I first got started 2 years ago, someone sent me an Ethereum that, funnily enough, was valued at 1,600. Today, I think it's like 1,500, fluctuates so ridiculously. But someone just gave it to me so I would not just mint things on Nifty Gateway, because Nifty Gateway is not even like a Web3 company. They only started taking crypto 5 minutes ago, and they control all the wallets and all the keys to the NFTs. That's Web 1. So I just think people just be nice to each other, for fuck's sake, and give people the time of day and stop being so, slow down, be gentle and be generous. We're going through such difficult times economically, politically, socially. America is stumbling more backward than forward. We're on the verge of elections, and things are always going to be difficult. It's not like this is any more of a difficult time than before. But if there were more artists and some of these dickheads in political power were making art, like I think it was in Romania, the president had an art studio in his presidential office. Art could really go a long way to make the world a more livable and human place to live in. Vote for me. I'm running for the asshole of the universe.
Beautifully said. So with that, I think this is a great moment. Let's toss over to the audience here. If you're ready, Kenny, we'll get some community questions headed your way. Shannon, you got the control here, so you just let us know who's jumping on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kenny. FYI to everyone, this is Kenny's bid for president, apparently. This is the beginning. But
I have way
I
too
think
many skeletons.
that's what it's all about. That makes the presidential race more exciting, right? But yeah, let's start with Monica. She's had her hand up for a while. Go ahead, Monica.
Hi, thanks everyone. I'm glad to be here. Hi, Kenny.
Hello.
You know, I just always get a kick of, I've listened to all your videos and especially the ones from your lectures at school.
Thank you.
Learned so much from you and love your perspective. I just had a comment, which was that I really appreciated your comment about the eBay thing and the ethos, because to me, it was a really, I'm on that platform, and it was just a huge disappointment, having been an eBay seller since 2001 and know their negative, bad practices. But I just feel like in this bear market, it's just a disappointment when platforms, obviously it's about survival right now, but it does, things do change and they do go back to a better time. And that's the one thing, one of the things I really like about Async, because it still is my favorite platform. And I think it always will be, because whenever they introduce something, it's more of a new concept that's going to help the artists express themselves with a new product. The way you can use it is just really for the artist, and I really think it's artist centric. And it's a real disappointment when when you have other platforms, especially Known Origin, change their ethos to become focused outside to the outside world rather than Web3. So I loved all your comments about that, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. Apologies for putting you through all those videos.
Awesome. Yeah, on to John P. You can go ahead.
Hi there. Can everyone hear me?
Yep, you're good.
Well, great presentation, and I really thankful for you to come on and tell us everything about yourself and history and teachings and of life and art and stuff. So thank you for that. And but my question was well, basically I kind of been having the imposter syndrome for, like, as an artist per se, for a while now, and it's kind of like deterred me from, I guess, exposing my art as much as I would like. But I feel like now with this new space that I'm learning more and more about every day when it comes to the NFT space, and then async as well is something that I newly came upon. I feel more inclined to actually open myself up and expose myself to whatever may come my way when I expose my art and whatever. But I was but I'm also at the same time, I'm a bit of a people person, so I do like interacting with other people face to face, and having conversations about what they may think about when they see my art and things like that. And so I had a bit of an idea was to kind of get like a small traditional like exhibition, like gallery thing going on, for like just to show a few of my drawings and arts that I have, and then but at the same time having a bit of an innovative approach where maybe the art pieces wouldn't be technically available as a traditional piece, or more on the NFT space, and people could go scan the piece and that would redirect them to the async page. And in a way would be kind of integrating the the Web3 NFT space with the traditional space. Is that something you've ever heard of? Is that would be a good idea for me to do? Yeah, thank you.
Sure, thanks. I mean, I would say right off the bat, I've been doing this for 35 years. I've written for MIT, I've taught at Yale and Harvard, and I feel like an imposter every single day. And in spite of that, or let that fuel you to go forward. And then, like, I've been giving studio critiques for 25 years, and in the beginning, I would always speak to students. I mean, they don't teach you in graduate school, no matter where you go to school. The most important class there is to learn, which is what do you do the day after you leave graduate school, and the little kind of cosseted little world of academia. What do you do? How do you survive and make a living as an artist? And in the past, I would tell an artist, find a like-minded gallery that shows artists that you respond to, go to the openings, ingratiate yourself, introduce yourself, and then meet the owner of the gallery, try to get in a group show, and blah, 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 blah. It would never occur to me in a million years today to go back to that strategy of getting a foothold and getting noticed. Because of like the tragedy of COVID and this systematic fundamental shift of retail moving away from the high street onto online, there are more empty storefronts than ever before. So what I would tell you, if you are a people person, which I sort of am and I'm not, since I get along better with children and animals with my personality issues, but I would say band together with some like-minded friends, get a space and do a hybrid show and show your drawings and use whatever platform you can to make either NFTs related to the work or not, or animate the drawings. I mean, I just think if you're a painter and a sculptor and you love the smell of paint and you love to chisel away at a piece of rock, then maybe NFTs are not the right thing for you. It's not a panacea for the whole world's art problems. So if there's a logical way to do both, or just sell NFTs and sell drawings and band together with my whole career has been self-wrought. I've never had an opportunity handed to me in my entire life. And even though I'm old and have been doing this now forever, I still, even though the opportunities are much better than they've ever been, I don't know when my next sale will be. I still have to hustle and struggle the same extent that I ever did, but there are better opportunities because the sheer stick-to-itiveness and perseverance makes up for a lot of other things like luck and inheritance.
Sorry, just to kind of continue on that one, you mentioned hybrid galleries. Is that something you've like attended yourself, and is something that is out there in terms of like artists? Like I have like a lot of JPEGs that I've put together, and I kind of was my idea behind it is just show the JPEG on an image form and then have them redirected to the NFT space. I guess, yeah, more of a hybrid format. Is that something you've come across on?
I would just say that, you're just starting out, like you said, and you haven't had much commercial exposure. There's no point for you to even consider trying to find an established gallery, or you need to do it yourself. Because, right. I mean, if you put yourself in the shoes of an existing commercial art entity, even if it's a gated platform like Super Rare, I mean, you have to do it by yourself. There's no difference from the variables that constitute success in the traditional art world and gaining an audience in the digital space. It's a painstaking incremental process of cultivating an audience of like-minded people. And you have to use all the means at your disposal to do so, but you should never think of a third party to rely on, whether it's Async or any other platform. You have to first, they can't do magic. They can't you need an audience, and you have to have work that would appeal to people. And the best way to begin is to do it yourself, 100%. There's no easy thing, and it's constantly going to be discouraging. It's never going to work out the way you want to, and anything that could go wrong will go wrong. So prepare yourself.
Thank you so much.
I will have to say we're going to edit that clip to have Kenny Schachter say Async can do magic, and we'll move on to the next question with that.
No, I actually agree with Kenny Pizza, because I think that's so important. As a platform, we're here for the artists, but the market, how you tap into that, it takes work. It's not just, I mint my NFT and it will sell. Like, it really takes a lot of hustle and then building your story. I know we only have 5 minutes left, and we actually have 2 questions. So have a question here from Fanny. What do you think about Ben's recent ArtNet article about the crypto space being unhealthy and unsustainable for artists to constantly be on constantly on and have to share their story, concepts every single day, all over again. Not all artists are as good as social media as you are. Link. So yeah, great
I'm terrible.
question. We'd love to hear about that.
I get into fights every day. I'm a disaster. I'm what you could judge my life on what not to do. That's a stupid, imbecilic perspective. I mean, first of all, Ben Davis, I mean, he's a colleague of mine at ArtNet. I can tell you that he didn't even know what an NFT was until one of my students, I was teaching a history of design class in the beginning of 2021. And I told the class that we're going to go off piste and I'm going to tell you about something you've never heard of, even though you young people should be teaching me about it. And I introduced the concept of NFTs, and half the class are in the NFT field now. And one of the students approached Ben Davis, this is all between us, right? Us and the recording. One of the students approached him when he was guest lecturing at SVA and mentioned NFTs, and he didn't know anything about it. And he ultimately took the piss out of the student, but he had reason to. But after that, he ended up to be the only person that actually looked at all 5,000 of people's everydays and found that there was some of the NFTs were comprised of what you would say questionable, quasi-misogynistic, racist subject matter. But it's incredible to think that Medikovan bought an NFT for $69 million, Christie sold an NFT, and had 22 million people viewing an unprecedented absolute fissure in the way that the world, and yet no one took the time to actually comb through all of these images. So look, there's no set way to do anything, but to make a comment like I say this is wrong, this is bad for art, and that's just ridiculous. Not everyone is either Julian Chabot, who makes cold calls to try to sell some of his paintings and constantly bangs his own drum and toots his own horn. And I mean, look, you do what you can with what's at hand. If you're very shy and very uncomfortable, make a few posts on Twitter. And I mean, look, if you want to get your work out there and you want to be in the public realm, then you have to roll up your sleeves and dip your toes in the water or pull your pants down or whatever you have to do. You have to do it. I mean, it's ridiculous to say this is good, this is bad, there's a million different ways for a billion different types of people that want to do things. You can find a way. I found my own way. It was uncharted territory. It took me probably, I'm sure I could have done a lot better professionally if I stayed within the boxes and kept my lines in the boxes, but that's not the way I function. So I had to make my own way to do things to account for my bombastic nature and my overly expressive self-expression. That's who I am. And then I found a way that I just collected so much art during the course of my life professionally, and I was able in the end to use that as a way to live the rest of my life without relying on other people. So I have the freedom of expression and the freedom to pursue all of my goals and my dreams. And you have to find your own way. It's ridiculous to say that this is bad. That's ridiculous. And don't think it's any different in the fine art world. The fine art world, what a dumb term that is. Traditional art world or anything else, you have to do the same thing, go to the openings, go to the parties, and kiss ass like everybody else. That's just the way it is. And that's part of life. We all have to whore ourselves a little, for lack of a better term. And look, if you're asking someone to go out on a limb and, collect something from you, whether it's $10 or 10 million, it's a leap of faith that someone has to believe in what you do and how you do it. And there's nothing wrong with finding a way to make it work. And if it's social media, if that works, fine. If you're incapable of doing that, find another way. But these comments by journalists, by anyone, prescribing, like I love Jerry Saltz. He's a dear, valued friend of mine who I revere. But when he starts like shooting off these rules of what artists should be doing hour by hour in their day, it's ridiculous. Shut the fuck up. I mean, being in this world there are no rules. That's why we're here. We make our rules. It's like Nietzsche, like as long as you're not breaking the law or hurting anyone, do whatever the hell you want to do. And there's no way that you should ever adhere to any pre-existing notion of how someone else tells you should lead your life. It's ridiculous. God, I'm exhausted.
You should rewrite the article in a more positive way.
I should start by reading it. Yeah. I'm more than happy to address his points and critique them. I'll read it as
Yeah,
soon
no,
as
no,
we hang up with
I'm
each
sure
other.
you will. I'm sure you will. Thank you.
But thank you for pointing that out to me. And
No problem.
Fanny, you should look at what Fanny does, and she's an OG crypto person who has a newsletter and facilitates amazing projects in the space with a big open heart and generosity
No,
of
and it's
spirit.
but
which
it's
is
true. I mean, it's true that like we're really trying to find ways to help artists, because a lot, you know, John, you talk about the imposter syndrome. Like, I think the fact that the crypto space gave pretty much on a platter all the tools available to artists to do everything, kind of obliged them to do everything, and then sometimes it's like, well, I kind of need some help here. Like, I am kind of by myself and can't be everything all the time. And the whole space, and especially 2021, really put like the wrong expectations or metrics, you know, like that, like selling 10,000 anything in 5 seconds is the norm. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, you can't do that. Like, and if
you don't
they
want you
did,
don't want
it's
to rely
engineered.
on someone else. You don't want to rely
Yeah.
on someone else. You don't want to rely on a gallery. You don't want to
Yeah.
rely. I have,
No.
you know, I have outside people telling me what to post on my Instagram, for Christ's sakes. I mean, life is not about reining people in. It's about giving people the license. Like John said, he has the fear. Well, I have the fear every day, and I've been doing this, and I've had some great successes, thank God, over the last number of years. But still, I'm scared, and it takes, you know, it takes faith in yourself and those around you. We all need help. We all need to collaborate, but we shouldn't rely on other people, and we certainly shouldn't listen to anybody who's telling us, like medicine, that we should take, what we should do. It's ridiculous. But I would also say, before you cut this whole thing down, get in touch.
Go ahead.
If you have another question, I'll answer it to the best of my ability.
Amazing, Kenny. I love that. I love that you said you respond to every single DM. I was wondering if it's even the like scammy ones too, or if you just.
I mean, I have
every
to
single
say,
one.
Twitter, the majority of scams on Twitter, I understand why. I mean, I'm sure Elon Musk knew what he was getting himself into, and he just had buyer's remorse because he knows what he does is in after hours and what things he was taking to do it or whatever, and had this crazy idea by Twitter. But 90% of the DMs I get in Twitter, I don't even know what you call them, are scams. And whereas on Instagram, even though Instagram is ridiculously censored and controlled by the algorithm, you can't even get the information from your own friends. It's all controlled. It's pathetic. But whenever I get like unknown DMs on Instagram, they're usually from legitimate actors and not just people hawking shit that are bots. It's ridiculous. But so what? So you just work around it. It's not a big deal.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kenny.
I think we're in a great moment in history that offers more people more opportunities than ever before to do the things they want to do. And I think no one should, there's nothing to complain about. There's something to rejoice. No matter what stupid crypto is being fluctuating at, it doesn't make a difference. And all that matters is your content and your passion. And you should do anything you can to follow it, because time is short. I've lost one of my kids. I lost a parent. There are terrible things that are going to happen to all of us, and you have to find a way to get around those and to make the best out of life, which can be pretty damn cruel. And I make the emoji sign. I have no air conditioning where I'm sitting. It's nice but hot. But anyway, thank you to all of you for having me and for listening. I'm deeply appreciative.
Kenny, thank you so much for taking the time today. We really appreciate it. Incredibly educational, incredibly inspirational. And we look forward to continuing our chat and relationship between Async and you there, and just continuing to follow your journey in this space as well. This is so exciting.
And let's do a project together, last but not least.
Alpha.
We're there. We're there.
Okay.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
Well, everyone, thank you all for joining us today. Before we quickly sign off, I want to let you all know, keep an eye out. We do have an email that's going to be popping out. We're creating a little blueprint to commemorate this great little chat we've had today. If you'd like to have it sent to you, just respond to that email, but we'll be sending those out in a little bit. So just keep your eyes out. But in the meantime and in between time, take all the lessons and all the inspiration you've learned today, and just apply it. There's such an open world, so many low-hanging fruit, and really the fruit are hanging right in front of us, and you can be the one to pluck this. You can move forward. You can plant your own trees, grow whatever you want, build whatever you want. Just do it. The only way we get to that next bull run, even if we care about it, is we have to build, and we have to just keep creating. So that's it's my pleasure to get to watch, but you all have to do the grind and put that work in.
Let's do a part 2 in a couple of months. I even managed to understand your Canadian accent,
There you go. I'm off
which is
to
up
Timmy's
there with my
now.
Long Island accent.
I'm going to go to Timmy's and get my little coffee and wake up. But everyone, we would love to do that. We'll be sure to set that one up. But in the meantime and in between time, everyone, take care. Really appreciate you joining us today. Kenny, thank you again, and we look forward to chatting with you again down
Great
the road.
pleasure. I'm very thankful. Thank you very much, everybody. See you.